Hi friends, how are you doing today? I hope you're having a great day, and I hope you had a lovely happy Christmas, and I hope you have a really wonderful 2024. Today I'm looking back over the books that I enjoyed most in 2023, starting with the David Hockney, a Yorkshire sketchbook. And this book I saw on other videos, and then I ended up buying it, so I thought I'd recommend it because it's such a beautiful book. It's one of my favourite sketchbook books of the year. Like the freedom in the paintings and drawings in the sketchbooks are really loose and really like wonderful to look at and really inspiring for me. And definitely this book has been a real inspiration. My sketchbook practice this year, because I've gone out much more sketchbooking and all of that, so I'm giving you here in this video just a couple of pictures so you can see what's inside the book. But definitely this is a really worthwhile book and a really inspiring little book, and definitely highly recommended. Like, you don't have much text or anything in the book, but what you do have is a really beautiful collection of sketchbook work from the artist David Hockney. So, and even there's another book later on inspired by him as well. So that's the first book. Hope you enjoyed that one. Definitely a big heart for me on that one. The next book, now this is a book I've had for a few years, but it's always a book I'm really inspired by. Mindfulness and the art of drawing. It just kind of encourages you to kind of take a different kind of approach to drawing, and be a part of the environment that you're drawing, or whatever you're drawing. Now it takes you through many different types of techniques, not necessarily just landscapes or anything like that. There's portraiture and city drawing and all kinds of things. But there's a quote there from Georgia O'Keeffe which I find very inspiring. Nobody sees a flower really, but it is so small it takes time. We haven't time, and to see takes time, like to have a friend takes time. And I just thought that was quite beautiful. So the next book on the list is Atomic Habits by James Clear. Now this book, is really amazing. Like, I just read it and I just found it really interesting about forming habits and old habits and all of that. In fact, I think it's a book I would actually read again. But definitely I would really recommend that if you're trying to develop an art practice or trying to develop a habit of any form. So the next book is Irish Environmental Library. So this book is a book I got second hand in an old somewhere, and I just thought it was lovely. I love the illustrations in it, and I just thought it was nice to have a book about Irish environment, about Irish animals and Irish plants and insects and all kinds of things. And I just found it really interesting for my own art practice to read it and read about the Irish plants and animals that exist in the wild and how important they are to the landscape that we live in. So I found that really wonderful to read about, and definitely a book on the environment is really always a good one for inspiration. Definitely for me, because I pull a lot from the natural environment in my creative process. I hope you enjoy that one. So the next one is another favourite of mine. So Hilma of Climp. She's amazing. She was a Swedish artist. She's passed away obviously, but this book contains a lot of her notes and illustrations and stuff. But she was really inspired by nature and spiritual practices. So this really obviously is something that I'd be really interested in, as my practice involves a lot of those things as well. And her drawings and her art would be very interesting to me to look at, and definitely an inspiration for me to look at. She was part of a spiritual group that used to do a lot of different spiritual practices and creative practices, but in this book it's a focus on her own sketchbooks, and you can see here as I'm flipping through the pages how beautiful they are. You know, like, this was a woman who was deeply committed to her art and spiritual practice, and you know, you can definitely see how beautiful her work is when you flick through this book. I really love this book. It's really one of my favourite books that I've ever had. Now, I didn't necessarily get it last year, but it's a book that I see as definitely one of my favourites of the year. So the next book is a book again by David Hockney, so I'm obviously a fan of his, and it's a book, The Joy of Nature, Van Gogh, Hockney. So David Hockney reinterpreted some of Van Gogh's paintings. So inside the cover you have a lovely yellow card which looks really beautiful, so it does, and then you're looking at these beautiful paintings of Van Gogh's that are reinterpreted to David Hockney's style, and I just love that. I just thought it was beautiful. I love like traditional paintings in terms of like landscape, like using art materials to make art, but then also finding fresh and exciting ways to kind of express nature and convey the beauty of nature. And I just thought it was such a beautiful book. Like, I made the mistake of getting the German version for some reason. I think I missed that when I was buying it online, that it's actually in German, not English. So that's a pity that I can't actually read the text. But still, it's such a beautiful and inspiring book, and definitely one I'd highly recommend, because it's one I got late in the year, but it's definitely one of the ones that I'm going to be using a lot in 2024 to kind of look towards for inspiration, or a guide to how I might approach some paintings or some of my artworks in the future. You know, it just gives you kind of a nice approach to that. Look at the colours, they're just wonderful. Like, look at that, like the Van Gogh paintings are just magnificent, and then David's reinterpretation of them is just like amazing, just amazing, so beautiful. Like, it's a book that I just love looking at so much. Even the drawings, he really went into a huge amount of research into Van Gogh's work to have this kind of book in a collection like so. The next book is a book I've had for a few years actually, again like the earlier book, Mindfulness and the Art of Drawing. It's one of those wonderful practices. This is like combining yoga and spiritual practices with art, which obviously is something that I would do in my retreat days and that. So this book is really like wonderful for me to use its practices in my daily practices of art and yoga and meditation and different things like that. So, and the next book is a new book of this year as well, Wildlight, a Printmakers Day and Night by Angela Hardin. This book is just gorgeous. It's so beautiful. It's like so wonderful. It takes you through like a printmaker's guide to day and night. It's just so gorgeous, like the photography and the quality of the paper. It's just like everything like gorgeous and inspiring. Angela Hardin is a lino printmaker, and she makes the most wonderful art, and prints, and so inspiring. Like if you're into art or at all, it's wonderful, because kind of that idea of going from morning to night and the prints in between is really beautiful. It's really, really a stunning book. Definitely another one of my favourites for the year, since obviously it's here, you know. Look, I just love sometimes you get a page like that, an end page or something that beautiful, like to break up the different times that the book is broken into. It's so lovely. It's such a beautiful book. It's a book I'll definitely be looking toward for inspiration. Definitely is. Now the next book is a book called The Illuminated Life of Maud Lewis. Maud Lewis is a Canadian artist, and she had quite severe oh, I don't remember the name of it now. I'll put it on the screen somewhere. She was quite severely disabled anyway throughout her life, but she made art throughout her whole life, and she was based in like Nova Scotia, this small kind of in a kind of quite a rural place, and she just created all these wonderful paintings, and she had quite a bright outlook on life, even though her life wasn't necessarily always like so bright. She always had kind of a bright outlook on the way she portrayed her life and her environment where she was. But I love that kind of folk feel of the paintings. I just think it's really interesting to look at, and I like that simplicity of the images, because sometimes, you know, when you've the skill to draw, sometimes I at least can overcomplicate the images just because I want to show off a little bit, but there's a beautiful simplicity here in the way she creates art that I find really interesting. So yeah, so that's quite a new book. I haven't got that very long, but it's just kind of one I think that I would just kind of go to for a little uplift or a little inspiration. So that is the last book. So I hope you've enjoyed all those. There have definitely been books that I've tried to find ones that I find very special, and I hope that you've enjoyed them. And if you do enjoy it, feel free to share the video, and I'd love to hear about your favourite books of the year. If there's been any books that you think, oh, I really love that books, please put it in the comments so we can share. And of course, subscribe and like the video. That would be really amazing if you could subscribe and like the video. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful 2024, and thank you for your support and for watching in 2023. Bye for now, and have a really wonderful year. Bye bye.